All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to start the podcast. I know you guys have been waiting long enough, but it's time. Swap over the overlays here. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the first podcast of the division here. Let me go ahead and pop up my webcam here to make this look as professional as possible. But how's it going, guys? This is going to be the first podcast for the Boy Wonder. Also, I got a couple of my buddies here. We'll go ahead and introduce them here in a second. We got a couple topics to talk about with 1.6 coming in the future for the division. I know this is going to be one of the biggest patches for the division. I know 1.4 came out and changed a lot of things for the PvE. Now they're focusing on PvP. Best thing to do is kind of talk about all these topics, what we think should be changed in the game, what shouldn't be changed, how certain things have already been talked about are going to affect the game in the future, and then we'll also go over a lot of stuff about the ETF, the Elite Task Force. Joining me today on the podcast, we go ahead and introduce both of them, guys. We got on the top right here, Mr. Yeti Nation. You guys know him from the War Z, back during a bunch of PvP. Yep. Obviously, he's pretty well versed when it comes to PvP and what PvP should be and how to make a PvP combat and entertaining. We also got Peak down at the bottom left here. Also another one that's a PvP enthusiast. Also has been there with a bunch of different games on terms of PvP and how to go about. So I guess the first topic that we can jump into, just kind of started here. I got a whole list here, but the current state of the Dark Zone in PvP. What should stay and what should go? Like, what do we enjoy about it? Stuff like that. How do you guys feel about the Dark Zone right now? Do you guys think it's where it needs to be? I mean, obviously not due to the fact that 1.6 is coming out and changing things, but I mean, how's the current state of the Dark Zone for you guys when it comes to the division?
For me personally, I don't even consider going into the Dark Zone. It's not something that I'm like, oh yeah, let me get on the division and jump in the Dark Zone. It's not enjoyable for the way that it's played. It's a bunch of groups or groups of groups running around waiting for you to go rogue, and they'll just all jump on you and kill you and then say you're a shitty player because they're 10 versus 1. So it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Definitely something I agree about. How about you, Peak? How do you feel about the current state of the Dark Zone right now?
Well, when we went in there not so long ago, I felt like when I first played it at the beta, it was kind of, well, it was okay, and then it didn't change, and then last time we played it, we come up against a group. It's basically pop all your cooldowns and you instant win, and it's kind of like, oh. So it's kind of boring.
Shit fest when it comes to who's got better cooldowns.
Just shit fest.
Yeah,
who has better cooldowns, who has better synergy with your cooldown. If you don't have your cooldowns, you're basically pretty much dead.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that too. Back, like, to kind of touch on with the beta aspect that you were talking about, I played this game during the beta. I played a shit ton of this game during the beta, and the reason why I wanted to was because of the PvP. We all thought this game was going to be a very PvP-oriented when we seen, like, the E3 builds and stuff like that, and it got me really excited about it. And then the game came out, we tested the beta, and it's the same. It's been the same stuff for 9 months now. There has been no changes since alpha/beta till now, which is definitely a problem, because that's a big selling factor to this game. You can tell it's a big selling factor to the game because obviously players came back with 1.5 when they changed a lot of stuff. They put survival mode in, and it's something that people enjoy. The combat system in survival mode is much better than the Dark Zone. Don't get me wrong, like, there are people out there that enjoy the Dark Zone the way it is, which, you know, obviously we'll touch on that in a little bit, but you guys pretty much hit it on the head about the Dark Zone. It seems like it's just a bunch of multi-grouping, and you're baiting players to go rogue, and that's about it. But going on, how would you guys improve the PvP balance? What do you think could be done to the PvP that could change how it would work better? Like, what do you think they could add to it or take away from it, or just in the matter?
So are we talking Dark Zone strictly PvP, or are we talking about PvP in general?
We're talking, like, say, I guess I guess we can touch on, like, the combat aspect of the PvP right now. I understand that it is an RPG, so it's number based and stuff like that, but do you feel like the numbers are just, like, so influx now that it takes forever to kill somebody, or somebody has, like, they have, for instance, they can pop cooldowns and it ends up being 3 million toughness, and then, you know, a guy can pop cooldowns and end up having 1 million, you know, damage. It just feels like there's no way of fighting somebody. It feels like when you get into a fight with somebody, there's a thing called like runaway. I guess that they said that on the State of the Game, where like other games, like if you go into PvP with somebody, you feel like you have a chance, and it doesn't feel like, wow, that dude just farmed a shit ton of gear, and next thing you know, he just killed me because he has better gear. You know, like I guess number balancing, crunching numbers, taking certain things away from it, like the combat. Well, what could they do to improve that?
Well, I feel one, they have to look into how skills and gear work together. Because right now I feel like there's no correlation between the two. I feel like you have super really good gear, and then you have your skills that add to that super good gear. Like you're adding something that's really strong with something else that's really strong, and if you don't have a way to negate that, there's no point. It's like, you're a mouse fighting a grizzly bear at that point. Like the gap is too far apart from each other. So there's like, at a certain point, skill comes into play, but when you're already that far behind, doesn't matter how good of a player you are, you're going to get shit on over the guy who has all the gear and has all his cooldowns to pop. So if they figure out a way to kind of narrow down that gear gap and make it a little bit more skill-based, that's when PvP is going to excel, because PvP is player versus player. If I'm going PvE content, yeah, I want to have the good gear and all these skills to be able to clear the instance or whatever. But when it's player versus player, it should be skill versus skill. It shouldn't be so much reliant on the gear or the skills that I have.
Of course. What about you, Pete? You feel the same when it comes to something like that? Like,
Yeah. I can relate what Jetty was saying. I mean, every time when I was in the DC, it felt like the gear gap. I thought I had pretty good gear, and then you just get bodied, and you feel like the difference between that it's not
numbers.
about being good at the game. It's basically just he has that better numbers, and that's it.
for sure. See, there was a thing, like, so for instance, like, talking more on what they discuss about the State of the Game, the thing was called, like, I guess it's a term like runoff. It was kind of thing like in Quake, for instance. Like, let me touch on it a little bit so I can kind of explain to you about it. But like in Quake, everybody was on equal grounds, right? They had that equal status, and if a guy was able to rack a couple kills together, he was happened to get the power weapons, and he was actually able to farm you in a way, he would run off, and there was nothing you could do about it. That's kind of how it feels with the skills and the gear itself right now. It feels like there's such a large gap between, like, the starting, like, for instance, like the 256 people that has maybe 350k toughness compared to a guy that has 450k toughness. There's a huge gap to that, and there's like that runoff factor that you don't have that even PvP fight. And it's something like, I'll touch on this as well, the PvP in like World of Warcraft, for instance. World of Warcraft had the same problem back in the day, where when you PvP'd, there was a guy that had 2200 gear. He happened to be Gladiator, and he happened to be in Arena, and he had better gear, and he jumped into a BG with you. And you fought that guy, and you had no chance to battle him because his gear just outweighed you, and it just was unfair. Now, with this whole PvP balance with the World of Warcraft, they now have the gear score, and that gives you a set number, and you go into it, and it balances all the numbers, so you actually feel like you have a chance. Granted, if he does have a little higher number of gear score, because he is a 2200 player or 2700 player or something like that, it adds like a 1% for each number. How do you guys feel about doing something like that with the PvP? Like, would you feel that would give you the more balanced gunplay when it comes into fighting a player in the Dark Zone?
So I'm going to reference Counter-Strike here, even though it's not the same style of game. It's still player versus player. So I might have an AK and you might have a pistol.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have the advantage, but that fight doesn't automatically mean, I have an AK, I'm going to win every gunfight.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, I have an advantage because I have the AK and you have a pistol, but you can still win that fight.
Yeah.
And right now in the Dark Zone or in PvP in general, I feel like if the guy is outgeared and he's been spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week grinding for gear, and there's somebody who, like myself, who doesn't have that time but still wants to go in PvP, what's the point? I'm just going to get rolled over because that numbers are too far apart.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess, obviously, I guess we can touch on another topic here. Could they give us a separate PvP Dark Zone? Like, could they get it set to a point where this is the gear that you have? I know they already do that, but like, say I have this crazy number build, and they queue us into like this, like do the number balancing where this guy has a 450k toughness, this guy's 450k toughness, try to put us into a separate lobby. Would that be something, or would you think that would just be way too much work when that happens?
So right now, the way their gear score is set is not on the actual stats of an item. It's just like, oh, this is a strong item, so it's 256.
Yeah.
They don't take into account what stats are actually on that piece of gear. They're just saying, oh, it's 256, so your 256 gear score. But my 256 and his 256 can be super
Totally
far
different.
apart.
Yeah.
So it's like what they could do if they want to add maybe a tier level for different PvP zones, but also look and try and figure out how can we change our gear score so that it reflects properly what type of gear that person has.
Okay. So touching on that, there's another topic that's down the list that we want to touch on there with like the gear mechanic here. Can they create like separate gear for PvP and PvE? Like, could they do that? Like, you think like, all right, hear me out here. So here's a PvP build. We now take all the numbers and they're all even, right? So all the numbers are even now. We're all on the same page. But now your gear set that you have, say, Alpha Bridge or Firecrest, or say I want to run, Strikers or something like that. Now those builds now have a little bit of weight, because right now everybody's running around Alpha Bridge because it's the strongest. It's what you want to do. That's how you kill people and stuff like that. But it's because the numbers are so crazy. Now, what if you would take those numbers and even them out and say I want to run a Firecrest build and I got to actually play a little different, and it still benefits me in a way because of that. Not just everybody's this cookie cutter set build. You know, I think the numbers itself would like still make like getting the gear sets work in a way, and have that style of PvP. Would that be something interesting to players? Like, I think that would be something cool. Have its own strict number set with the set builds kind of thing. If you kind of understand what I'm talking about.
But it comes down to, so there's, to me, when I look at the Dark Zone PvP, because the survival PvP, I feel is pretty balanced. There's a little bit of RNG involved, but in any survival-ish type of PvP, there's always RNG, and you know, did I get the good loot spawn? Did I get the gun that I needed, or this or that? So that I enjoy because every time it's different. Yeah. But if you look at the Dark Zone, they have to really figure out how to balance their gear and skills, because I might be a better shot than said person.
And that's
where gear.
Yeah, and that's where so for instance, like Strikers, like right now if you run Strikers, each shot that I hit you with gives me a % damage. So now I have to take my time to aim on you, and I get that benefit because of that. And I think it would work out better that way, instead of, it doesn't matter because a dude could have 500,000 toughness and I hit each shot on him, it still doesn't matter because he could just tank everything. If the numbers were even, like, that build would be fairly good. It would give me a benefit to actually aiming and so forth. Or say Firecrest, where I run a turret and obviously I'm not going to have the greatest gunfighting skills because obviously my turrets are going to do more damage, but I got to outplay you. Oh, and then, you know, I run an Alpha Bridge, I get six stats to go up against you. You know, that would be something kind of interesting to me. That mechanic, I think, would be something really, really good to touch on. Kind of what you're saying.
What I would enjoy is remove the skills.
You just want to flat
like,
out
I don't mind so much that your gear might be a little bit better than me, but if you negate those skills, then it comes down to
pure
placement, position, movement, aim. Yes, you might be a little bit more tough than me. I might be putting out a little bit more damage than you because you sacrifice your damage for toughness. But it comes down to then who can assess the situation better than who has all their cooldowns on ready to go and popping them all at the same time.
It's kind of like survival mode. Like, you know, when you get into the survival mode and you play and like you get that feeling of like there's a player there, like, oh man, like I know his gear's probably the same as mine. I might have a little bit of better weapon than him, but like his movements are better than mine. Maybe he aims better than me. He just gets more headshots than me, and like she just outplays me that way. That's what I want with the PvP. That's something that I think would be extremely good to put into the game and balance it that way. I know myself and Peak has been playing a lot of survival mode because that's the only part of the PvP that I enjoy, because it gives me that feeling of like, wow, I'm not just going to get steamrolled by 20 people going into the dark zone. You know, at least it's you know, trust me, it's grouping and stuff like that happens in survival. It happens all the time in any game, but it's not as bad as it is in the dark zone currently right now. You know, and I think like if they could balance the PvP in that aspect of survival mode to the dark zone, you would come out with such an amazing experience right now compared to what we have right now currently. And I think Peak, you can touch on this too. Like we like I said, we do the survival mode because of that.
Yeah. It's like what I'm going to fill in what Yeti said about like the skills and that you can all use them, and I'm going to like take a reference from what World of Warcraft is doing right now. They have like the PvE talents and the PvP talents, right? And they have them separate now. You cannot use certain PvE talents in PvP, or you cannot use PvP talents outside of PvP.
Yeah, that's true. I completely forgot about that.
If they could balance out a way that you could only use certain skills that are only usable or basically have a certain duration or a longer cooldown, and you really have to think carefully when you use it, you know. And also with the fact that you guys were talking about gear, I mean, if they can make all these different sets, right? They could probably make sets only PvP based out of PvP.
Yeah, that's something that I think would be really nice.
Basically make them, and of course there is one of the sets that does something for the dark zone, but isn't it, the bonuses of that set isn't as great as the other ones right now, and that's why people are going for the Alter Bridge and all the other ones, you know. And like Yeti said, you know, I could be a better shot than somebody else. For example, I mean, they have this set for people that might like snipers, you know, and if you're a better shot, of course you're going to hit headshots with it, and if you go for that build, you're going to crit hard. And so it's all depending on, basically, gear should basically be a small boost on your skill set.
Yeah.
And not like the gear should carry me instead of my skills. You know, I can be the most completely unskillful player, but I have the best gear, so I'll win any fight anyway.
You can pretty much just sit there and face tank somebody and just hip fire them and just happen to get a couple shots to hit because I got better gear, and then there's nothing you can do about it. And I think that's what they said in the state of the game too. I'm pretty sure the guys at Red Storm also said that too. They said they want to fix that part of the PvP. They want to take it so that when I get into a fight with somebody and say I happen to get a jump on a guy, and then he turns around and fights me, it's not so one-sided. It's not so there isn't that runoff factor where it now feels like I stood a chance against guys. So maybe this is going to be changed in the future for 1.6. Maybe the ETF that they're extended into North Carolina, those guys are going to be there to weigh on that. Maybe that patch is already in. Maybe what we're talking about right now is already there. We don't know yet. The only thing that because the only thing that really they talked about, they touched on leaderboards, which we will touch on leaderboards in a second. We'll tell you everything that's wrong about the leaderboards and why I think those should not be in the game to begin with. But that's for another topic. But I guess moving on to the next thing.
Just before we move on, because Peak was talking about, you know, skills and cooldowns, and I was thinking, and I was like, in survival you still have skills.
Yes.
But you have the first level skills that will change a fight very, very minimal.
Yeah,
like, okay, you have a heal, you have a turret, you have a shield, you have a pulse, but these are small things that will change a fight.
Yeah, it'll just change that little
versus the ultimate, the ultimate skill set. You know, rate of fire, critical, or mass heal, mass res, and it just, I find that's for a PvP, in a PvE set, no problem, because, you know, you're going against really tough mobs, and sure.
Yeah. But
in PvP, you shouldn't have, in this type of game, this is how I feel, it shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
because I find
it weighs too much. It's too, you emphasize it way too much when it comes to it. You almost don't even want to
what
fight.
I said about the.
Yeah, it's like you almost don't even want to fight anybody if you don't have it. Because if he has it, he just pops the stasis and he just ends up shredding you down instantly. Because I don't have my defense one up or I don't have a heal up or something like that. And he just outweighs me completely when it comes to that. And that's what Yeti's touching on with the survival mode, where the turrets don't have this crazy fire thing. Where I actually got to throw a fire nade on you to make that burn status. So now I have to aim this fire nade at you to hit you to get that status to now try to turn the fight in that favor. Or I EMP you or shot
tone down the skills a bit.
Yeah. You know, like bleed effects, you know, like if I bleed you with a grenade and you can't run, and like that turns the tide in the fight. But it's not as bad as it is right now in the Dark Zone. And I guess what we can touch on after that now is survival mode, because this is actually a thing that's in survival mode that I enjoy a lot. Is the PvE content worth being in the Dark Zone? Do you guys feel like that should be a thing in the Dark Zone right now? Me personally, I feel like if they give a separate PvP, like back when I was talking about the separate PvP Dark Zone, where it's strictly PvP only. You go in there and you go to kill other players, and that's it. And you don't farm. If you want, you farm out in PvE, where that's where you farm your gear and everything like that. And then you take what you find into the PvP, and that's where you just go and kill other players. That's essentially what it is. Right now, it feels to me...
Well, simply what they can do is they can create a separate shop for strictly PvP versus PvP, no PvE content whatsoever.
What about something like survival?
As you get kills, you generate PvP credits that can be used at a PvP vendor that has gear for PvP.
For the PvP stuff, yeah. So it's like, what about a separate server where if I go into the Dark Zone and I queue into the Dark Zone and I go, hey, I only want to do PvE in the Dark Zone. I want to go kill NPCs and farm, and I can do that. Or if I go into a PvP spot, I can queue in for a PvP mode, and now if I go in there, I know that players are going to kill me. I think the one big factor, and I don't think this is going to change in the game right now, is the rogue status. I think that's going to be one of the big topics that we'll talk about right now, is about the rogue status for Dark Zone. There's too many people baiting other people to go rogue, because when you kill a rogue, you don't have any negative side effects to you for killing that player. You wait for that guy to go rogue, then the whole server jumps on you. You know, and that's touching on the leaderboards. The leaderboards are trying to emphasize on rogue kills. What if you go into the PvP mode and you're already rogue? You're already there. Like, you're already flagged for it, no matter what. There's none of this running around a player hoping he's shooting an NPC and he happens to walk in front of you, and then he goes rogue, and then 4 guys jump on you and kill you, and they don't go rogue either. You know? That's something that, I mean, could they change that? Would that be... I think that would be a huge thing in the game, is just mark everybody rogue already. Like, go in there and just... You're already...
Well, I don't think they don't need to mark somebody. It's PvP. Just go in and you see a player, you want to kill him, you kill him. You don't want to kill him, you don't want to kill him. There's no like, oh, look, there's rogues over there, let's go hunt him down, and the whole server's chasing you. I understand that they're trying to make rogue, oh, you get this huge benefit.
Well, for instance, I went rogue yesterday, and I killed the guy 6 times in a row, and he finally came and killed me after I killed him 6 times, and I got nothing for it. And he kills me and took my coins and took my keys and everything like that, and I killed the dude 6 times in a row. And, like, I just couldn't get away because they just kept chasing me and chasing me and chasing me and chasing me and chasing me. And it feels like once you're rogue, it's like, dude, you're screwed. Like, I mean, the entire server's after you now, and it's like, in survival, when I see a player in survival mode, I get so excited about seeing a player. I'm like, oh my, here we go. Shit's about to hit the fan. Like, I'm ready to PvP right now. And in the Dark Zone, I join in. I go, there's a player. I don't really want to mess with this. I don't get that excitement feeling that I get when it's PvP. I almost treat it as if it's not even PvP anymore. It's just, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a PvE mixed with a little bit of PvP. And it's like, okay, I know the consequences if I shoot.
The repercussions are too high for you to initiate PvP.
Of course.
So, like, the last time we were in there, the guys were running around waiting for us to act first. Because they don't want to go rogue. And then they just
punished.
I feel like PvE and PvP right now with the Dark Zone. I don't really... Okay, so right before the survival patch, right? I felt like, okay, so I have to go into the dark zone to get the best stuff, because there was you can get the
Some
dark
of the
zone
set
credits and you
views
get
and the
some
dark,
those
yeah.
vendors. Yeah. But right now it's differently because now we have the survivor. You can do that on PvE as well.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like the dark zone, but it's more immersive because it's like the cold and all the stuff, which is kind of cool. But I feel like that the dark zone should basically, like, because they already have all that area around the dark zone is PvE. So why should there be NPCs inside the dark zone? I feel like the dark zone, like at the start of the game, I thought, okay, so the dark zone is this cool PvP area, and it wasn't.
There was
So
more of a
I
mixture
feel
between the
like the
PvE.
PvE content, yeah, it was basically watch out, you can get shot by other players area, It should basically, what they could do is make that whole area PvP,
PvP.
right? So you should always be flagged, not like this rogue status. Maybe they could I want to be an agent faction so I can get that type of loot, right? Or
Bingo.
I can be or
That's
I can be a
something.
rogue faction and I can take rogue gear,
Yeah.
faction-wise
That's
things.
something
That
we'll
would be
touch on
cool,
too. Yeah. I think that was
But
actually
So,
another topic that we were going to talk about as well is
yeah. So
the gear set.
I just want to touch. I want to touch on what we were just discussing here, and then we can move on.
Sure.
But like another thing, right? So you're talking about you can't get away from these guys. Another problem with the way the dark zone works right now is if I kill you and you're a block away, your spawn point's a block away, and I'm fighting other people, you will get back, and I'll still be in a fight.
So randomize where you spawn at.
Yeah.
That would be something that would be good.
Yeah,
they should change the spawn system.
Well,
Yeah.
we remember we got into that 3v3 fight when we were in there.
Yeah.
We killed one of their guys, and we're setting up to take down the other two. And what happens? He comes up from behind us because he spawned a block away.
So he spawned a block away. Yeah. That's like
And
So
honestly,
that's something that have to.
randomizing.
The timer
where
of respawn
they
is
go.
too short as well, so it's not like, oh yeah, I'll just wait 5 seconds or something like that, and I spawn back close,
Spawn
So
back
if they spawn further away, and they spawned a little longer, they have to wait a little longer to spawn, because then it would be a little bit more balanced, and then you can get away a bit doing
Yeah.
stiff. But this is all because of going rogue and shit. Now, basically, that whole thing going rogue should be gone, basically.
Well, I don't think it should be gone. I was actually just thinking about something when we were discussing this, but I think the rogue system right now is too light in a way. So like if I do a little bit of damage, I end up going rogue for like 60 seconds. And then it goes rogue again to 140, and then again, and then it finally goes to the max rogue. So if they just took out, I want to fight a player, right? I want to fight a player, and I want to kill him because it's PvP, but I don't want to get punished for it. So if I really want to go rogue, they can keep the max rogue status. Then they keep the manhunt. That's me going in there, and I am slaying the entire server. I'm this badass that's outscaling everybody. And then now I'm on the manhunt. So it's right now you can tweak the numbers of how that rogue system works so that I don't feel punished for actually having to try to defend myself while some dude's just running around in a circle on me, just yelling and VoIP on me, and I'm off doing my own thing, and he happens to walk in front of me, and I'm already rogue. Well, now I got to fight a bunch of people, and he spawns back in on me, and I got to fight him again, and then I get even more rogue, and then even more rogue, and the next thing you know, I'm already max rogue because I killed the guy 6 fucking times, and then now I got the entire server on me, and I'm screwed at that point.
So I agree, and it's actually an extremely smart idea. Is if you kill a guy, you're not instantly rogue, but now your infamy's gone up.
Yeah.
And if you continue to kill people, or you get to a certain threshold, boom, now you're rogue. Now the whole server sees you. Yeah. Now there's the manhunt.
You're more of a threat
but
to
you shouldn't,
everybody else.
You shouldn't instantly, I shot a guy with one bullet, I'm instantly rogue, the whole server's chasing me down. It should build up, and then when you get to a certain point, you've done X amount of damage, or you've killed X amount of people, boom, now there's a big server-wide announcement, there's a rogue, here's where he is, go get him, because he's killed 10 people.
All right, so I guess the rogue mechanic, I guess we had already touched on that. I guess this is one thing that I think would be extremely cool to add to the game. I'm not sure what they can and what they can't do to the game. I don't really know. I know the Snowflake engine or whatever they talked about. They said it's like really strong. They can add stuff and take stuff out, and I'm not sure on what the actual like engine is capable of doing and how far they can advance the engine. But back to what Peak was saying, this is another topic that I thought would be extremely fun in the game, and it would force you to grind a lot. And that's the one thing in this game that it lacks is there is no progression like other games. Like if I'm playing CS, I'm like, I want to get to global elite. Like I want to be that badass. I want to be that guy. I want to grind that. So there's gear sets for factions. Say you go into PvP and you have that threshold bar where you're an agent or a rogue. And if I kill a bunch of players, I end up getting faction points as a rogue, and I can only use a set gear on the rogue side. And then if I want to protect other players and get this benefit of being an agent, which is the good faction, then I get gear that helps kill rogues or vice versa. And you can have these two like gear sets that now you have this like separate server based thing where it's like that guy's good, I don't need to fear him, but he could also be trying to go rogue and try to get this, so you're always on that fear. But if you want to stay as an agent, you get this cool gear set and everything like that, you can do that. Like would that be something that would be awesome? Like I honestly, me personally, I think that would be such a huge thing, and like it would help the grinding system of getting gear in the right direction in a way. It'll give you something to progress forward. So I don't know. Like that's
Isn't it like the old system that we had in War Z, where you could like kill a lot of players? You go bandit,
Paragon.
and
Yes.
and you could go basically officer to be a good guy.
Yeah, and then you'd have that icon above your head when you run around, and people know that you protected other people, and it took a long time to get to that Paragon level. And then also, it's kind of like what is it? The Star Wars game, the Star Wars MMO game, where there's Sith and the Jedi. They have certain PvP gear that works for the Jedi, and they have certain PvP system for the Sith. You don't necessarily start out as a Sith when you go in there. You have to do dark points and everything to get to that part of the gear, and something like that in the PvP aspect could be done. I think it would be an easy fix, and you get cool looking gear as a rogue. You look more evil, so people
and they can make separate sets for that PvP.
Yeah, for sure, separate sets and everything like that. So that's something that would be very interesting to do. And I guess another thing we can touch on is PvP brackets. What about PvP brackets where it's based on players like solo KD and like an arena style game mode where like there's a battleground for Dark Zone, and then there's like this player has a really high KD, he's very skillful, he now gets put into a bracket with other players that are on his level, so that he's not just running around killing unskilled players, and you know, it becomes boring to him in a way because he's just like, all right, I'm farming like players that really aren't that good. Now you're actually fighting against players that are in, say, the 1800 bracket or the 2200 bracket, where you're arena styling these guys and you actually get engagements that are really intense for you. You know, and like branch it out and like to a skill based system. Like, would that be something that could be done?
So it all depends on what stats they're currently tracking for players. Right? Because if they've been tracking that type of information from the start, then they can go and analyze that data and figure out, okay, how can we track who's good, who's not, what skill level these people are at? Because that's extremely hard to do in this type of game. It's not like Counter-Strike where, you know, there's KDA and then there's, you know, match one, you know, how many losses, what skill level were you playing with, and all right, you're good enough to go up a rank. Right? So it's a good idea, but how easy it is to put in place.
That's the thing. I don't know the devs. I know Hamish is in here. He's listening to the podcast and everything. So shout outs to him if he's still in here. But like I don't know what they're capable of doing. I would like to sit down and maybe discuss like if certain thing. Maybe these topics have been talked about. Maybe they've been talked about on the forums and everything like that. But you know, I would like to know like what is possible and what isn't possible. But so far what I hear about this engine, it's like things are very easy for them to put in and take out, and they can fix and everything like that. So like maybe the faction status is there, maybe an arena style. I know a lot of people were talking about an arena style, like 1v1s. People love to 1v1 each other in PvP. They love it. Like currently, right now, like they 1v1 because it's like I'm better than you. I just outskilled you. Now think about 1v1s or like 3v3s where they can separate like a queue system such as survival mode, and it queues you into like an arena style game mode where then you now can track players elo. That player plays him, he gets points to go up, and then that guy gets points to go up, and he goes up. Just almost similar to the PvP aspect of World of Warcraft. That's why the arena system is working so well for World of Warcraft, is because of that. It gives you that reason to grind. I'm now playing PvP, and I have an incentive to keep playing it over and over and over again because I want to get that high. I want to be the top guy on the boards. I want to show people that I'm a 3,000 ranked player. Like I'm really badass. Like currently right now, players are running around. There's the gods of the division that these people say that are really good at the game, but you can't really tell if they're good at the game or not because you don't know what the other guy's gear score is. You don't know what the other guy's running. You really don't know if you're on par with another player or not until something like that happens. You know, could they do an arena style? Would you guys enjoy arena style play with this?
See, I think that, to me, that would be interesting, right? Because then it's going to come down to, you know, who's going to run the tanky build? Who's going to run the damage build? What type of builds are you going to run as threes?
Yeah.
You know, what type of setup are you going to do? So that, to me, is extremely interesting because then, like you said, it'll be easier to track how good is this player actually.
Yeah.
Not because he's, you know, there's days where I can run into any game, and I can run across people who are average players, or below average players.
Yes.
And then the next day, I can run across people who are better than me, and I get steamrolled.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's a way to track, and I really like the idea of 1v1 arenas or 3v3s, you know,
I mean 2v2,
and then you can run tournaments.
That's already
You know,
there.
then you get a little bit like.
Yeah, that system's already
You get
there.
that competition.
We got the group system already.
I mean, they should be able. Yeah, they should be able to make a separate instance, just like the survival mode with the brackets, you know, like solo, duo, triples, group, you know.
Of course.
And they could also basically make it so like you load into a separate area that is based on your group size, and then you will fight a group against each other.
It's almost identical it's almost identical to the arena system. And wow, you can queue as 3s, you can queue as 5s, you can queue as 2s, and you get a separate rank for those. Say me and Yeti would go in and just do some duo gameplay and duo styles, but we want to get some points to
you will load in an area that is big enough for
twos
two versus two.
Yeah, 2s and 3s and 4s, and then have like you could essentially take like DZ1, DZ2, DZ3, DZ4, DZ5, DZ6.
Yeah,
and
like
when you queue
that,
into it, you would all fight in DZ1 during the 4v4s, and it would like just and it would randomize what DZ you fight in for the maps. The map's already there. It's now can you implement that system into a server base? You know, would the servers hold up if that's something that they can do? Will it not? So on and vice versa, kind of thing.
I mean,
but another thing too, it would somewhat negate the whole groups of groups.
Yeah.
We've run into this multiple times. We ran into it in the Dark Zone. We ran into it in Survival. We were in a duos queue, and we had 6 people just running up the stairs at me.
Yeah. So.
And it's like, how can I fight against that?
Yeah.
You know, even if I'm a god tier player, I'm the best division player ever. Mm-hmm. The odds are not in my favor.
Especially when it comes
you're getting swarmed. You know, great that you're a great shot and you're very skillful.
But 6v1, it's like, yeah, you're kind of, you know, and like, I mean, 6v1 with like the same gear, like 6v1 with somebody with the best mid-max gear is possible. I've seen it done and everything like that. But like, if you're all in the same tier and you're all there, like that would be, now you really outskilled those players. You really timed your med kits, you timed your healing, you timed everything properly, and your positioning was good, your nades were great, and it just wasn't me standing there face tanking 6 people. You know, it actually takes that skill to win, and then that's where you would see your players that currently right now that I've fought against, I'm like, wow, that dude had fucking amazing aim. Like you could tell he was headshotting me the entire time. I could tell that he was doing more damage than body shots on me, but it didn't matter because I was tanky and I just out damaged him because I could survive all of it. You know, that would be something that would change and be kind of interesting.
But that's right. So if you're doing 2v2s or 3v3s, you know, for those groups that want to say I'm a badass at the division, prove it.
Prove it. Exactly.
Go into a 2v2 where it's only 2v2 and show us how good you are. Don't go in there with your buddies for backup.
It's like in survival when we fight 2v2 groups. In survival, you fight 2v2s in survival and everything like that, and even though your teammate dies, you still have a chance to 1v2 those guys. Granted, that'll probably be for another podcast or whatever, another topic to talk about during the survival kill state and stuff like that, how it should be obviously extended, because it feels like if I win a 1v2 and my teammate's already dead because they instantly killed him because it took 1 second, there's no way I can res my buddy and so forth, you know. But like in an arena-style game, that could be something interesting. My teammate's down. He's not necessarily dead. He's unconscious. I could res him, but it would take me a while. I would have to play a little... I'd have to be a little skillful, try to bait players into doing something different and vice versa. And then, like, you still have the opportunity to 1v2 him. And that's where your players would be like, well, I'm a god. 1v2 me, bro. Like show me that you're...
Yeah,
you know,
because for me, what's the point of getting gear if I'm never going to play in the Dark Zone?
That's true.
But if I could use that gear in 2v2 battles or 3v3 battles or 1v1 battles, it'd be a lot more interesting for me to go and actually say, you know what, let me focus on getting this piece.
I gotta farm that.
Because right now, I'd rather just jump in, go on survival, get gear, make it to the end, extract, kill a bunch of players on the way, and have fun. Yeah. But that gear that I get, I'm not gonna go in the Dark Zone. Why am I gonna go in the Dark Zone? To me, it's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
But if they introduce the 2v2 system, hello. All day, every day.
All day, every day. I'm ready to. I will no life the division if that happens. I think there'd be tons of people currently right now that would like that system be in the game, and they have an incentive to farm, and then an incentive to keep grinding that game mode. Right now, like I jump into the Dark Zone, and I just don't really care to fight players. I don't have anything that's really worth too much. I mean, yeah, I can go in there and go rogue and go manhunt and die and vice versa, but it's to the point where it's like, how many times can I do that? And then it just gets boring, you know? It's like, all right, same old thing in a way, and this would actually give you reasons to play. And I guess we can touch on the topic here about a Dark Zone mechanic. Say we do have Arena, we do have the PvP for the Dark Zone, which would be considered like a Battlegrounds, for instance, a free-for-all. You go in there and you can fight and everything like that. But bringing a system into the Dark Zone that makes you fearful when you go in there, such as like a sickness mechanic. There's a sickness mechanic in survival where you're always on the move. I gotta move, I gotta move, I gotta go, I gotta get meds. So you can keep the PvE content in the Dark Zone, and if I kill mobs, they have a chance to drop meds that extend my playthrough of the Dark Zone. Or I need to kill another player to get his meds, just like survival mode, in the Dark Zone. That keeps me there longer. The longer I'm in there, the better chance I get with gear to extract. That's obviously better than, you know, what I have on my system now. And if you die in the Battleground Dark Zone, you get sent out and you have to queue back into another Dark Zone so that you can't just instantly respawn on a guy and go right to him and kill him again. So now he's on his move that he's like, I have to kill everybody. I gotta watch out because if I die, I just wasted all this time in the Dark Zone. I don't get to extract. Kind of similar to the survival mode aspect now. That would, you know, force people to fight each other still and not just run around and hug each other and not do anything. You know, would that be something that would be interesting? I mean, personally, I think that would be a very cool mechanic. I think that's the reason why the survival mode mechanic and the survival game mode is so much fun to me, is because I have to worry about that. And I think you guys can agree with that too. That's why you guys queue for it like I do all the time.
Yeah, definitely survival mode refreshed the division, and I think a lot of people came back to it for it and are still playing it because of it. So hopefully, you know, they can take the numbers and look at them and say, you know what, I think we're onto something, and they need to cater for that more balanced PvP, because right now I don't feel like the Dark Zone is balanced.
mean, I think a lot of people agree with that too. They don't feel like it's balanced as well, and there's a lot of other streamers that say that too. I mean, there's a couple streamers out there that talk about it. They say they enjoy it. They like the way it is and everything like that, and that's cool. I mean, a lot of people will enjoy it the way it is, but I think majority of the people that are playing the Division right now do not like the Dark Zone. They don't like the way it is, and they're 1.6 to me is going to be the make or break patch for Division. Period. I think this is the biggest patch for this game. Period. Like, I know 1.4 came out and they changed the PvE. They had the ETF for the PvE. Balancing the PvE is so much easier than balancing the PvP in 1.6. If they don't get 1.6 right, I kind of see the game turning south again and losing player base like they did in the past, because there just wasn't anything to do. So they came out with the ETF for 1.4, and now they have PvE. All right, people are getting a little bored of the PvE, or you know, you can only farm it so much, and it's kind of, all right, just like any other RPG game, you farm dungeons so much that it just kind of gets boring, and you don't want to go into the Dark Zone, like you said, because it's just not balanced. It's not fun. So, like, the time I spent on the PvE is just kind of wasted because I don't ever want to go in there.
Exactly. So the game is so gear focused. It's all about, oh, I gotta get gear, gotta get gear, gotta get gear, gotta get gear. But then half the people don't even use that gear because they don't want to do the PvP.
Yeah.
Because it's not enjoyable, right? So like we can grind survival and we can extract every single time, but what's my reward? Gear.
I never leave the hub. You know, I never do.
Give me like give me something more. Where now if they come out, we're going to go back to this arena idea, which I think is phenomenal. Oh, shit, I need to get this because the setup we want to run in threes is this, and I need to get this gear so I can do that, so we can climb the leaderboard and, you know, make it hopefully the top one of 3v3s in the Division.
And it still keeps the PvP, the PvE aspect to the game. So you're not losing anything in the PvE. You're gaining more than you're losing, obviously. With that feature, you're still getting players playing the PvE content, trying to farm that piece of gear that they want, and achieving the arena status, and achieving the Dark Zone status, and these things. And back what Peak was talking about, back when, like, going into the Dark Zone, you have levels. Right now, it doesn't matter if I'm 99. What does 99 level in the Dark Zone mean to me? It doesn't give me anything. It doesn't give me a boost to my stats.
Nothing at all.
It doesn't give me any extra perks or talents that I get to use in the Dark Zone. Like, now, like, you reset the Dark Zone, and, like, just like World of Warcraft, you have to farm the PvP to get the experience that gives you those talents to unlock. So now I'm level 99, I have all the talents, I have everything that I need for PvP, and it gives me that grind to get up there, you know? What's up, Hamish? Yes, I applied for the ETF. I don't know if Yeti or Peak did. I applied for it right when you guys announced it for sure, because I definitely want to be a part of the ETF. That's kind of why I'm doing the podcast currently. And I think the two people here with me are obviously wanting to do it. I definitely
would, yeah.
That's kind of why I did the podcast, Hamish, when it came to this, because I felt like I was such a low streamer in the Division, and many people look over, and I kind of have ideas that I would like to improve the game in a way, and I think a lot of people that I talk to on an everyday basis has the same style as well. So touching on that PvP aspect talent-wise, all the PvE talents are now used for PvE. Now you have these certain talents that you have to grind for, like World of Warcraft, that give you the PvP bonuses that aren't so crazy overpowered, but still give you a little bit of bonus. Such as World of Warcraft. You know, I'm going into an arena, and it doesn't give you a huge bonus, though. It doesn't give you some overwhelming odds that, like, this guy has this. To be clear, the whole content creation thing isn't a necessity, such as
to be part of ETF.
Yeah, okay.
So like, as we stated earlier, like pretty much at the beginning of the podcast, it's a numbers game, right? And right now, the gap is too wide.
And it's
like, yes, I agree. If you're going to spend 20, 30, 40 hours a week playing this game, you definitely should have an advantage over me.
Oh, of course.
But that advantage shouldn't mean that you're untouchable.
Yeah, I just
It should give you small perks.
Yeah.
Now think
It should give you small perks.
Yeah, think about how many players play this game currently right now, and they want to enjoy the Dark Zone, but they are just scared to go into the Dark Zone because they don't have the time to farm, such as myself as a streamer. I sit there and play 8 hours a day, and I grind. I get the bulletproof vest. I get all these set items that are extremely hard, and it gives me all these bonuses and stuff, and I go into the PvP, and it's like, I'm kind of scared to go in there because I know I'm going to die because I don't have enough time to farm. So you change that, and you make all the, the runaway factor and the numbers even, you would have more players want to participate in PvP.
The current Dark Zone is also not that populated right now because a lot of people
fearful
don't enjoy the Dark Zone at the moment.
Yeah, they're fearful for
Like, I'm definitely we're a little biased. I would have loved to have Knuckles on here, who spends all this time in the Dark Zone, and understand why he enjoys it. I don't want them to change the game to a point where the people who are enjoying Dark Zone hate the game.
Yes. That's why I want Knuckles.
You don't want to break it only to one side.
There's a fine line. That's what I'm saying. 1.6 is a huge
it's a fine line, but the whole idea of an arena with a leaderboard will then cater to those players who don't want to do the Dark Zone because there's such a huge gap, and it's groups of groups running around and people waiting for people to go rogue. We're in an arena battle. It's, hey, peak, boy, let's get on threes. We jump on threes. We're playing against a team of threes in a confined Dark Zone area, be it DZ1, DZ2, DZ3, whatever, and it's fight to the death. And then KDA comes into play, this, that, and then leaderboards. Like, then it'll give people the people who want to grind gear. They can still grind their gear, but then they want the people that want to grind PvP and say, look, I fucking started at the bottom, and now I'm up here. And
for it, yeah.
It'll cater to the hardcore PvPers, and it won't affect the PvEers.
Exactly. So you're catering to two people, but giving PvP a little bit of change that is needed and helps players kind of get out there and want to continue to play PvP. So I guess the last thing we can touch about, and then we can kind of wrap up the podcast because we've kind of been going on a little while here. The leaderboards. To be honest with you, when they announced the leaderboards, I was like, wow, this is kind of cool, but also not really that great. I mean, we've got the divisiontracker.com where they track all that already, and like people don't really use it. They don't really care too much about it. And like certain things that they're tracking, almost as if they're trying to stop players going rogue. It's like they were talking about how many caches you extract, or how many NPCs you kill, or how many rogues you kill, which me personally, when I heard that, I went full tilt mode. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I went full tilt when I heard it on State of the Game, because that right there literally is a terrible idea due to the fact that how the current Dark Zone system works. You would influx the numbers due to the fact that people would just bait you going rogue and then kill you, and there's no benefit to a player that isn't going rogue. I have to, for what I'm talking about is like, say the guy baits me to go rogue and he kills me, he gets 1 point on a leaderboard. I get nothing. I died for it. I don't want to go rogue, but people are wanting me to go rogue so that they can flux their numbers on the leaderboard and show that they're a badass kind of thing. And that's something that just, to me, was not a good idea to do.
And
it's a good idea if they change how the current rogue system works, such as what we touched on previous, where the numbers of the rogue system are a little bit skewed. So, like, you don't go rogue as easy now. You're talking like, I'm killing a rogue player, I'm ending a dude's manhunt. That's me killing a rogue player. That, I killed that guy.
But
if you're at A, change B.
If they were...
Yeah.
Make it bunched up, and then it would be fine. You know, the leaderboard would be fine if they change the current way of being...
Exactly. If they don't change it, I can simply say, hey boy, let's go in the Dark Zone. Shoot me once, let me kill you.
Exactly.
Come back, shoot me once, let me kill you. Oh, I've killed 2 rogues already in a matter of 2 minutes.
Then basically people will be stat padding.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
What about
Definitely, definitely.
there's games out there like we're gonna touch on this whole stat padding and teaming up and everything in the dark zone where they're doing multi groups and stuff like that. It happens all the time. It's not going anywhere. It happens with a lot of games, but there are games out there currently right now that have fixes for that, and they're much smaller industry than Massive and Ubi. And what they do is they do a system such as the calling. If you're next to a player, you're solo queuing and you're next to a player for too long and you're not engaged in combat, you now have to fight that guy. You are stuck fighting that guy, period. And like that is a system that I think would work really well, that would kind of balance this whole dark zone solo team play multi-grouping thing. If that team's next to another team and they're not doing anything, you are now fighting each other. Or if it's, I don't know how you would mark it. I don't know how that game marks it in a way. There's a system in play that if you're close enough to another player in PvP, you're now marked that you two have to kill each other. I'm not sure how it works.
Well,
I know it's there and it's really cool because I have to fight that guy. And like how the division could do that in a way. You know, you have two groups of 4 next to each other and they're just standing next to each other in the middle of the
they
dark
have
zone.
this. They
Fight
have
each
this
other.
thing that always says, like the pulse mechanic, you know, like they have this like thing, proximity. This is in your proximity, you know.
Yes.
I think they might be able to add something that somehow suddenly a pulse goes off and it triggers, and suddenly you guys are flagged in PvP to kill each other in a way.
Yeah, because you guys were there near each other. It would be almost like an invisible stat track kind of thing where it would always be pulsing. It would always be pulsing. I think that's probably what they do with like the calling. It's always pulsing. It shows that guy's right next
So
to
if
you.
you try to kill each other,
You're next to each other for a
the
minute.
stat padding, nothing will happen because you're flagged on being.
Both rogue or in a way kind of thing. I think they want to keep the rogue
Yeah.
status. I think that's like the big thing for PvP. I don't mind the rogue stat. Like I think it's cool, but it does need worked. So like that's one thing with the leaderboards that I thought wasn't going in the right direction, but that's something that they were really proud of in a way, because I can already mark my kills. I can already check my kills and everything right now. And it's not that big of a deal. It's like people don't really care too much about it, and I don't really think like the leaderboards would like change too much. I think it's a lot of work going into leaderboards that needs to kind of branch off and do. They could spend more time trying to fix something else other than trying to spend all this time on this leaderboard thing, So that was my thought about the leaderboards. It's cool. A lot of players were like, "Oh, I think it was more skewed. It was like 80-20 in chat during the state of the game when they announced leaderboards. People were like, "Oh, great, leaderboards, cool. Not really, don't care, don't need it. It's not a big deal." So there was a couple people in chat were like, "Leaderboards, awesome, sweet, cool," But the majority of the players are just like, "There's so much wrong with the game that the leaderboards is like not even something I'm thinking about." It's cool they went at it. Don't get me wrong. It's awesome, but it definitely needs to work. And like I said, I don't know what they're focusing on right now. What is the patch for 1.6 that when you go to the ETF, what are we playing on right now? That has not been announced. Like, because normally with the ETF, you go there and this is what they have in place, and you go there for the weekend, you play it, and you give the feedback, and then they can tweak it till the patch comes out. What is actually in that patch? What is there already? What are they working on already? Are all these things we're talking about right now already in there that they're tweaking already? Like maybe we're just beating a dead horse by me talking about all this, but it would be nice if they come out and go, "Hey guys, 1.6, here's what we're kind of working on. How do you guys feel about it?" Maybe the forum boards will have something like that in the future, because I mean it is in January. It's like January 20th for the ETF. So I guess we can touch on that. Like I guess for the last topic here before we answer some questions in chat. What are you guys hoping to hear back from the ETF team? Like, do you have anybody that you think would be a good choice for the ETF, part of the community? Like, do you think that because this guy has 1,000 hours in PvP, will he be a good fit to the ETF team? Or, say he only plays PvE, will he be a good fit? Like, how would they, I guess this is the thing, like, how are they going to determine who's going? Like, because this is a different thing than PvE. PvE is not too hard to balance. Anybody can do PvE. Not a lot of players can do PvP. Not a lot of players know what they want in PvP or what other players want in PvP. So, like, what do you guys want to hear back from the ETF team if they do come back afterwards in January and go, "Oh shit, this is what they put in,"
I feel like if they the stuff we talk about, like, take it with a grain of salt, of course. I mean, we're just talking, hopefully speculating a bit what could be possible. But I think like if after that ETF and somebody comes back, of course we'll hear it from Massive themselves when
Yep.
they launch it. But I just hope that it's actually something concrete and something to look forward to. So, I mean, I enjoy the game. I mean, I really do. But I just hope this game goes up a notch, right?
Of
To
course.
make it even more. So maybe, for example, like new players will jump in as well because they're hearing about this stuff in the division and everybody's really hyped about it,
Hmm.
and it's actually really cool. So I just hope it's going to be something really, really
Exactly.
interesting to add to the game.
That's what I'm saying.
So I mean, and if we're talking about like who would be wise to go and who is not wise, honestly, I have not really. I don't really have an image on it. I mean, mostly I've been playing with you, and all you do, like, and everything you do is basically mostly constructive, and it's not like a whole bunch of bullshit. I'm just ass kissing a game. No, I'm telling what is wrong with the game and what is good at the game.
Of
So
course.
basically, the people that should go actually should differentiate their feelings
Of
on
course.
something and make it a positive and a negative side of it, and not just like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've
Like,
I've
yeah,
done
yeah,
that.
I'll totally agree. This is cool.
I've been there. I've been in the gaming industry for a very long time since I've been a kid. I've tested numerous games. I've done alphas. I've done betas. I've done the play testing where you go to the studios and do that and you give it. And I'll be honest with you, like if I get accepted to the ETF, shit's going upside down. Like I'll be honest with you, because like I am straight focused. I will tell you exactly what needs to be fixed, and if you don't like it, I'm open for suggestions. But like it's kind of the point where it's like you have to be pretty strict when it comes to this, because if not, there will be a lot of leniency that
So
will screw things over. And like
there's
this is the thing that's hard to determine. Exactly what Peak said. Like you
there's
don't know.
so many games that I have seen change their direction and their vision of a great game because people were complaining about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like they were complaining because the game wasn't working properly. They were complaining, "Oh, it's not fair. This isn't fair. That's not fair." But the most of the people that are on a forum, in my opinion, there is the small few that are on a forum that are expressing what they enjoy about the game.
Yeah.
But most people are jumping on a forum to say what they don't like about the game.
Yeah, the casual.
So like I've never gone onto a forum ever in my life and be like, oh, this is great, this is fun, keep this, change
Yeah,
that. I play the game and I work around the game.
exactly.
Like I just feel like they have to stay true to what they want to do and move forward.
Yeah, stay true, move forward. Stay true, move forward. Don't skew too far from the game that it's completely changing what you want, because there's a fine line. There's a very very fine line between what's going to happen with 1.6. Like this could be, like I said, the make or break. Like you could change stuff so much that there's just players are just like, this is not what I wanted, and it goes back to being the PvP is obsolete now. Like it's just whatever. How much criticism will Massive, or actually it's not Massive that's doing, it's actually Redstorm. How much criticism are they going to take and actually go, well, we need to change everything? Are they able to scratch everything? If we go into the ETF, they go into the ETF for the 1.6, and we play this build, and it's terrible. It's like, this is definitely not what anybody's looking forward to. Can they scratch that? Are they willing to scratch that to wait another month or two to get it out the right way? Or are they going to rush this 1.6 out just to be like, we have 1.6, it changed PvP? That's it. We're done. Because I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on what the actual ETF did at 1.4. I didn't take part of it. I actually wasn't really interested in the game with the PvP aspect to even apply for that at the time. But there has been great feedback from what happened with the ETF. They said that it did amazing wonders for the game. So now you have ETF again, and they're doing it again for 1.6, and this could happen again. And this would be a great thing, you know. We got rumors, air quotes, rumors of year 2 content coming out, you know. So it's like you could add year 2 content that's focusing straight on PvP, where they get new arena maps, new arena gears, you know, different tweaks and changes on builds.
Expand the map.
Expand the map a little bit, you know. Who knows what's gonna happen? Maybe the virus spread and it's now like the containment didn't work, and now it's like you got a larger thing. Maybe the dark zone expands a little bit because, like, you know, a lot of people took over, and then it adds a different feel to the PvE, but also gives you a cool like backstory to PvP that expands it too. You know, those are things that would be interesting. Like I said, I don't know what they can do, what they want to do, or how they want to do, because, you know, I'm not like best friends with the devs, and I don't, you know, sit there and talk and stuff like that. But, you know, the ETF, those guys will see, and they'll play it, and they'll definitely come out with it and be like, oh, this is amazing, you know, it's awesome. So, I mean, that's it. I guess we touched on the ETF.
Maybe it's all about how good the coding is of the people that.
Well, supposedly, you know? what I hear from this engine, it's amazing. Like, they, even throughout the podcast that they host, I watch all of them. I watch State of the Game. I watch the podcast. I listen to the people that create the game and talk about the engine. They said the engine is very, very, very it's not basic, but like currently what it is, they could do so much with it. They could expand it so much that would just blow our minds, because it's such an in-depth in-depth engine that. They said they barely even touched it, like the Snowflake engine. They said they barely touched it. So as supposedly what they say is this engine is capable of doing what we say. They could just put the assets in, take assets out, change things as they want, you know, do server-based stuff, takes things out, fix bugs, take bugs out.
That's good, right?
Yeah. So that.
I mean, if it's that flexible, I mean, I've seen engines, you know, that aren't that flexible,
exactly.
And it's like, you know, like I want to add something. Well. If you want to do that, you have to add this and that, and never mind that. Yeah. So if they basically can just like say, "Oh, you guys like this? All right, click of a button. There you go,
done."
Test it.
PTS server, test it. Here it goes. Put it in. Well,
you
don't like
boom,
it, take
done.
it out. Go back to PTS server. That's great having PTS. I think PTS should be on every single game.
Put it in, put it out. You know, change it a bit, put it back in, check it out again. That would be so nice. I mean, flexibility.
We hit up on the ETF. I think that's all the topics that we went over to, guys. I guess if you guys in chat have anything you want to add, I know Giz was talking about some stuff here. I guess we can touch on that for a little bit, give about 5 minutes of that, and then we can wrap up the podcast and be done. I'll upload this to YouTube and everything like that, so people that didn't watch it, they can go ahead and do it, talk about it, vice versa, and everything like that. And we can come back to next week, next Friday, and talk about a whole nother topic after State of the Game. So if you guys in chat have any questions you guys want to answer, or have us answer, or you have any topics that you think should be brought up with the PvP changes in 1.6, feel free to say something in chat. I know Trav was talking about one shot shouldn't make you go rogue. I think we touched on that. Leaderboards only drive people to exploit and cheat the system, which I think we touched on that. Different balances from console and PC. You know, like have a PC branch and then have a Xbox, you know, because there's different metas. You know, there's a lot of things that console players can't get away with that PC players can get away with. You know, maybe there's a build that like PC people run that like console players just can't run because their aim isn't that great, or, you know, so on and everything. You know, a bunch of meta testing and everything at that point, you know. So I don't know, like there's a lot of things. I mean, Giz in chat said there's a lot. I know there's a lot, man. There's a lot to touch on. If anything, I think we can touch on more of this next week. I'll set everything up. We kind of talked about what we wanted, and you know, I know Hamish is in here. Hopefully he watched. Hope we didn't bore him too much with the podcast and everything like that. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. So yeah,
they should just invite all 3 of us. Let's get it over with.
Yeah.
GG. But anyways, guys.
Hook me up.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess if you guys want to go ahead and give out your Twitters and stuff like that, maybe people can follow you on Twitter. I actually got some questions and stuff like that. Yeti, if you want to go ahead and give yourself the plug of the podcast to let know people where they can find you and everything like that, go ahead.
You can find me at twitch.com Yeti Nation. I'll put it in chat here. And you can also you might have to give me perms though.
Yeah, I mean, if you just want to, like, for the people that aren't in the chat currently right now, just go ahead and just say your Twitter and everything like that, so people on the podcast can listen.
So the Yeti at the Yeti Nation for Twitter, and Yeti Nation on Twitch.
On Twitch. All right, Peak. How about you? You got any final shout outs or anything like that? Got any final shout outs and stuff like that you want to get off your chest and stuff? Now's your time.
If you want to hook me up, on Twitter, it's at Peekaboo0. It's the last always a 0 TV. You can find me there. And if you want to find me on Twitch, and then sometimes I'll be streaming. Might pick it up a little bit more. It's Peekaboo0 TV as well, same as here.
Same as here.
So,
good,
yeah.
Man. Awesome. So, yeah, guys, I guess with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the podcast. If you guys like what you heard, you like what you see, go ahead and give us some thumbs up and subscribe to YouTube. It's going to be posted up on there. And remember, guys, before we end the podcast, the Barrett's chest is a lie. Just kidding, guys. Enjoy your farm when it comes to that chest piece. I know it's crazy and it's hard to get, but keep the grind. I still don't have it either. So, guys, take it easy. You guys have a great day, great afternoon from wherever you guys are. And we're out. Have a good night, guys.
Got me loving in the morning, got me singing in the pouring rain, got me wrapped around a finger, I'm perfect in the palm of your hand. Message couldn't be much clearer, like a metaphor make-believe. Wish somebody would've pinched me, now would be the end of this dream. Well, pardon my manners, just something about you turns me to a savage. If I'ma be honest, I can't help but stare, yeah, I'm losing my balance. Got me running in circles around you to please, yeah, I do what I need to. So pardon my manners, just something about you turns me to a savage. Time you walk by, I can feel your magic in the air. Promise this ain't a drive-by, I'm trying to sweep you up and keep you there. Got me running in circles around you to please, yeah, I do what I need to. So pardon my manners, just something about you turns me to a savage. Just something about you turns me to a savage. If I'ma be honest, I can't help but stare, yeah, I'm losing my balance. Got me running in circles around you to please, yeah, I do what I need